I am a person who is living his dream. This is a family home. I wouldn't be here without family and friends and what they sacrificed, how hard they worked. As far as I'm concerned, my music is to amplify love. That's it. This record, it felt like a new beginning. It felt like a rebirth. As a human being, I've never been in a better position. No matter what's going on, if you back up far enough, it's just another fine day in this universe.
And it's a fine day in Paris. I know what you're thinking. Is it a fine day in Paris? Sure, it was a moody sky that day, but we came to the City of Lights to speak to one of its most famous residents, Lenny Kravitz, in his beautiful home, to talk about a brand new album, life, family, legacy. But first, take a look at his beautiful grand piano. Couldn't help myself.
Zane. Sounds good, man.
I had to, bro. I hope you don't mind.
Don't let me interrupt your writing session.
They're the only two chords I know.
What's going on?
I've been dying to see the Kravitz Grand with my own eyes, bro. It's a beautiful piece of art.
Thank
What's
you.
the inspiration behind this? This is
Actually, this spot, it was designed for this room, this spot, being next to this painting and this stairwell. I wanted it to be based in African design.
Yeah.
It all started with these legs that were hand carved. And then I just went from there, picked the wood and had these artisans, carving all of these designs in the side. All the metal is all hand formed.
Wow.
Really beautiful. Even the pedals are like that as well.
Yeah. Beautiful. Look at the inside. My God.
Yeah.
It's real art, man. It's beautiful. It's everything come together. It's like your love of music, the thing that we know you for, but also this beautiful designer's eye, this love of art. You are a curator of the arts, bro. There's no question. Just walking through this house, you can tell. It's the wonderful taste, man.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too. Where are we going? Through here?
Yeah, come on, we'll go in the salon.
Oh, it's a beautiful day in Paris. How's rehearsals?
Really good.
Yeah?
And the band has a vibe, and it's starting to happen.
Yeah, I saw your new drummer play with you the other night when you were doing the People's Choice Awards, man. She crushed that.
Yeah.
And it must be interesting trying to figure out like how you're going to, renew the energy and the chemistry on stage. I mean, you've had some classic lineups. I think about that Tony, Craig, Cindy lineup in the 90s was just like
incredible.
A fucking tank.
Yes. And then Jack Daly, who joined us on bass after that, and then Gary Dorsey.
Is it true? In fact, I know it is because this was brought up before that your bass player couldn't make an MTV Awards once, and so.
Not only could he not make it, he was missing. He was missing. Tony had some adventures. Mm-hmm. He even got kidnapped once by two women. Yeah, but that's another story.
That's another story.
In Australia. But yeah, he was missing in action, and we were getting ready to do the MTV Video Awards. And we had no bass player. And I was just making a joke with Craig. I'm like, yeah, we should call John Paul Jones.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. Because he would nail this song. And
it was Are You Gonna Go My Way?
It was Are You Gonna Go My Way? Craig was like, well, call him. It's like, he's not gonna do it. He doesn't know me. He's John Paul Jones.
You've never met him?
I had not met him before. And I don't know how I got his number, but somebody got it. And I called him. And I'm freaking out, and I'm just like, John Paul Jones, wow. Yeah, he's like, what do you want? Well, I'm playing this award show, and our bass player's not around, and I was wondering if you wouldn't mind playing bass, for us, knowing that the guy was going to say no.
Yeah. Shoot your shot.
And he said, of course I'll do it. I'd love to do it. And I couldn't believe it. He flew to Los Angeles. We did one rehearsal.
What was it like when he fired up the first time in rehearsal?
God.
I mean, that song.
And there's no footage of that rehearsal. I didn't have cameras around a lot.
So you got the riff going on.
Yeah.
But the bass comes in after the fact.
Yeah. Dum, 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 dum. And he's nailing it. And we get to the break, and he comes in with the line, do, 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 do. I was like, you learned the line?
He must have
Wow.
been cracking up.
And it was amazing. It
Wow.
was so amazing for me to be playing with this giant. And we won the award.
Which you weren't going to do until that performance. And everyone's like, we got to give him the award. It's beautiful to be here in this house, man. I do love Paris. When did you come here for the first time?
First album. Yeah.
On tour?
Promotion. The American label that I signed to, Virgin America, that had just started really a couple years before, believed in what I was doing, and was the first label that
Oh, thank you. Very kind. Thank you so much.
Yami.
Thank you.
Was the first label that, understood what I was doing, and I got signed, which is
amazing, because by the sound of it, you didn't even understand what you were doing almost. You just figured it out yourself.
I was just doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
The music just came to me. Let Love Rule came to me, and everything I was doing before was me trying. I liked so many different styles of music. I could play so many different styles of music. I could play all the instruments, but the writing wasn't there yet. I was searching. And then all of a sudden, I got this download, and it came to me.
I love how you say that, how it was a download. I just love that, because
It was not me. And by the way, it's still not me. To this day, it's still not me.
it's a beautiful observation to have so early on in your life and in your creative journey, because it allows you the space to let it come and to let go.
So I knew the difference, because I was doing the exercise of searching. Well, maybe if I put this together with this, but I like a little bit of funk, a little bit of rock. And I'd been told for so many years that I couldn't do what I was doing. When I would bring that music around, it was always the story of, it's not black enough, it's not white enough, it's too rock, it's too funky. It's people recognized my talent, but didn't want me to do what I was doing. Take your talent and do this. This is the formula, this is how it works, this is what a black artist does. Yeah. These are the radio hits, this is the sound of what's going on. Anyway, back to Paris, I got the download of Let Love Rule. I'd been shopping it. I was granted a 5-minute meeting at Virgin with a woman named Nancy Jeffries, who was A&R there. She came in, played the cassette, played Let Love Rule, played that song, and then she said, hold on a minute, I'm gonna go get somebody. She went and got Jeff Aroff, played the song. He said, hold on, I'm gonna go get somebody else. He brought in Jordan Harris. The three of them are sitting there. Then they asked me to play a few other songs. I did. They kept listening, and they were writing notes, passing them back and forth. I'm just sitting there, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be another one of those situations.
Yeah.
I sat down, they said, we wanna sign you. Do you wanna be with us? And that's how it happened, after being turned down time and time again. So then when the record was done and mixed and it was time for promotion, what box was I gonna fit in? How were they gonna promote me? It was a bit confusing, so they sent me to Europe. And so I went to London for the first time. I went to London, Paris, Hamburg, Germany, and Amsterdam. And that's when I came to Paris for the first time, and I absolutely fell in love.
And you felt
with this
understood.
place.
I think that you fit into a finite and select group of artists who really can only be defined by the genre of your name, which every artist should be, very, very early on. And I know that can be a tough road. Look, it's led you here, and this place is beautiful, and what an incredible life, and we're going to celebrate it today.
Thank you.
Through the filter of your music and your new album. But it hasn't all been easy. Like I know that there's been some tough times for you trying to figure out like how you turn people on.
And how people accept it, It's always been a fight.
Yeah.
It's been about moving walls,
But then I see you perform, that fire in you and in your band, that fight, you're never gonna shake it, right?
No, to this day. I'm so grateful that all these years later, I'm still here. I'm still hungry, I'm still motivated, I'm still inspired. I'm just as inspired as I was when I was in high school. I mean, absolutely, we're here.
We're here.
So what are we gonna do?
Right.
Yeah. We have to keep pushing, and we have to keep growing and experiencing and learning. And I wake up every day, no matter how tough it is or what's going on or how much work or whatever the challenges might be, I still wake up every day with a thirst for life. I love life, you know, with all that comes with it.
You surround yourself in this house or in this environment here, and I'm sure it's the same everywhere that you call home, with reminders of your life. There's beautiful, beautiful portraits of your mother in that room. A beautiful, striking portrait of your grandfather in that room.
I wouldn't be here without these people and what they did, what they sacrificed, how hard they worked. My grandfather was born in Inagua, Bahamas. Had 4 brothers and sisters and a bedridden mother. Father died, and he had to become the man of the house at 9. So he had to provide for 6 people. And
From 9 years old.
from 9, and he figured it out. Not only did he figure that out, he then went to Florida, to Miami, met my grandmother. I think they were like 16 when they got married, and had my mother the year later. Ended up going up to New York City to search for a better life. Figured it out, sent for his family, worked 5 jobs, bought a house. This is in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and made a way for my mother to be educated, to go to college, the first in the family to go to college. Went to Howard University, studied at the Shakespeare Institute, Stratford-upon-Avon in England. And all of that is the foundation that I'm standing on, the foundation that Zoe is standing on. And I take it very seriously, and that's why I have all these portraits up. You know, my grandfather is over the table every day, every meal. My mother is in the room there. It still fuels me. It still gives me power.
What are some of the fondest memories you've had in here that you can share? You know, just moments or visits, people have come through here.
Just family and friends that come here. This is a family home. It's also my daughter's home. So when I'm not here, she's here. And she has friends over. We like to just hang out, cook, eat, listen to music, talk, laugh. You know, it's just it's a home. And you know, when I'm working with my band, they live here. We live as a family, which I think is important.
It's really important, actually, because I think that there's been this misconception because of the way that you've made your music and how you've managed your career. And also, I think how you're perceived within the media or through the lens of photographs and whatnot of being this loner. And that doesn't sound like it's actually the reality at all. It sounds like you love to be around a lot of people.
I love people, but it's a very tight group of folks, my friends and my extended family and my family. But I love people.
And you like being on your own as well? You like solitude?
I do. I like being around people as much as I like being by myself. I need both. I need time alone, and I need time to feel people, touch people, have that back and forth, you know? It always balances itself out.
What's one of the most important trait for you in building a relationship with someone? What do you search for ultimately as a quality of character?
Honesty, being direct, loyalty, for that person to be truly who they are, authentic, you know? Be you. I'm quite non-judgmental. I accept people for who they are, whatever that is. And if I choose to love you, then that's what I'm going to do. Regardless of who you are, what mistakes you make, because we all make them. If I'm in for the journey, then I'm in for the journey.
So you exercise grace with people?
Absolutely. And I'll stick with you.
And do you exercise grace in your own life?
I've learned to, and I'm learning to.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it?
I'm the last one to get that. I'm hard on myself.
You are.
I'm extremely hard on
You've
myself.
always been that way?
Yes.
What do you think that comes down to?
I was raised to work hard. I was raised to have a solid foundation and to always be working harder to get to the next place. You know, my grandfather used to wake me up 5 a.m. when I was in junior high and high school, which I hated, to go into the backyard of my mother's house and prune the trees and chop the
At
wood.
5?
And I had to work, you know? And my grandfather would lecture me all the time. And with the greatest love and respect. But when you're a kid, you're not down for that. And I watched my mother, even in her success, being on, you know, the #1 television show, scrub her own floors, clean her own toilets, clean the house, do the thing. It was always about follow through, you know, doing everything properly to the nth degree. And my father was ex-military.
Right.
My father was a Green Beret. I almost got sent to military school. I was into this music and I wasn't serious about my schoolwork.
Who got in between you and military school?
I think my mom stopped him from sending me there.
Yeah.
But I ended up leaving home when I was 15 anyway.
Wow.
So, but I finished high school. I continued high school and got my diploma, and I had to do that for my mom. You know?
Yeah, beautiful.
She would have freaked out.
I've heard the song and I've read what you wrote about your father, and I know you've come to a beautiful conclusion in terms of how he did the best he could. And all we can hope is that our parents do the best they can with what they have, and then we learn from that and we try to do better and better and better. But that conclusion came after you became a parent.
Yeah.
And I wonder how challenging that was for you to have enough self-awareness when you became a father to not fall into some of those byproducts of being raised by a strong parent in ways that you don't want to actually carry on.
I think you either become that person or you go the other way. And I went the other way, absolutely. And I had my mother who was soft and loving, still a disciplinarian, but in a completely different way. And I had my grandfather and I had my grandmother who loved me like no other. My grandmother was the safest, most beautiful, warm place for me. She was my refuge. She was total love and comfort.
So that's where Flowers for Zoe comes from. It comes from that kind of love.
Absolutely. Zoe was born at home in the bedroom. And the moment I saw her, I never felt love like that before. You know, so it comes from different places.
It's a crazy time, you know. You become a parent, and then all of a sudden, your dreams start to come true, and
yeah, it all happened
all at the same time.
It was at the same time. Marriage, a child, and this career starting all happened at the same time. Yeah.
When you think back to that particular time, while we're there, and we're talking about the first few albums, new fatherhood, marriage is running its course in whatever way it's going to do that. What was really that time about for you as a person, as a human, what you were experiencing and translating?
It was life coming at you full speed. And it was exciting. And these were all new experiences. Being married, having a child, getting this record deal that I'd wanted, you know, since I was a young teenager. And then my band was living with us. We were living in this loft on Broome Street in Soho. And there were like 8 people on just like little pads and mattresses.
It's like a commune.
And pillows, just living all over. It was just living all over the floor.
Crazy.
With my wife, with my child, all of us in one place, probably about the size of this room.
Yeah.
It was a trip. I mean, we were just in it. You know, Zoe's mom was filming the television show at the time with Cosby, and she was just so down, and she was there for the mission, supporting me, and it was a beautiful time for all of us, for, you know, the musicians and my engineer, Henry Hirsch, that I was working with.
Who deserves a lot of credit. I mean,
an incredible amount.
The sound of those albums. I listened to Mama Said again the other day when fucking Always on the Run drops in.
That was a great memory because, you know, that obviously Always on the Run was with Slash.
Yeah.
And we went to high school together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
I was at the American Music Awards. This is after my first album. So I hadn't started the second album yet. And Guns N' Roses is sitting in front of me. And I see this guy, and I'm like, I know this guy. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, wait a minute, we went to high school together, didn't we? And then we both realized, and so we exchanged numbers and kept in touch. And he was just finishing a tour in England and said he wanted to do something. He jumped on the Concorde, which got into New York City like at 8:30 in the morning or something, and came to my place. He had me search for like a gallon of vodka and
gallon
and a bag of ice, which it like, you know, by the time he got to me, it was like 9:30 a.m. Ended up going to banging on neighbors' doors, got the vodka, got the ice. We took the train to Hoboken, where the studio was, with the vodka, couple guitars, bag of ice that was slowly melting. Got to the studio, and we just did it.
How much fun for you, having spent the majority of your time on your debut album, which broke you out, all on your own. That can be lonely, by the way. People always go like, oh, amazing, you played everything. It's like, yeah, that's not always
It's not
fun.
what I wanted.
Yeah.
I wanted to have a band. I wanted to have that experience of being in the studio, you know, having all these people, you know, and rubbing all these ideas together, working off of each other.
Slash must have been probably your first actual taste of what that felt like.
Yeah, it was great, and that track is still one of my favorites.
I mean, I'm not surprised that after that you were so teed up around Are You Gonna Go My Way. It was so teed up because people forget, they know all these songs like It Ain't Over and all these amazing anthems and stuff, but Mama Said had to work its way into people's homes.
Oh yeah.
That's a hard-working album. I feel like Are You Gonna Go My Way was the breakout moment. The video represented the song represented the ambition.
And by the way, that took time. That single was about to die. We were working that thing. MTV was playing it like late at night, but they weren't giving me the heavy rotation at the prime time. But then it broke. It just like one day it just broke.
It just happened.
And then it never went away.
You've written songs about this. It's never been your design to be famous.
No.
You've been very clear about that.
It was about being a musician.
Right.
In my mind, I was going to be playing in clubs or the street or a restaurant or in studios or like whatever it was. I want to play music. And I really wanted to be a studio musician. I mean, that was kind of like the fantasy. Like, I'll do session. You know, this is in the day of sessions where the top session guys were, you know, doing sessions all day long from one studio to the next, playing on this record, then that record, then this record, then that, you know.
Yeah.
I thought that would be cool, you know. And even when I was in bands, I was not the front person. I was fine with that. Then it all just kind of came together. I don't know what happened, but I ended up singing, and which I obviously had done before when I was in the boys' choir. I mean, I had a classical career for, you know, from 11 to 15, singing classical music with the California Boys Choir, and, you know, recording with Zubin Mehta, and, you know, touring and performing with the Metropolitan Opera of New York City. And I mean, but when my voice changed, I stopped singing. So
how did fame sit for you? Let's look at the 90s real quick, because a lot of younger artists and people are fascinated with the 90s right now. It's a time that I think, because it's just pre-internet and everything is loud and fame is real and success is big, but there's no internet to divide it up into this kind of democratic opinion.
Right.
It's a crazy combination of exceptional, if you're in it, exceptional noise, but no one can kind of reach you or touch it. We're all just passively observing it and supporting it.
It was beautiful, man. It was beautiful.
Please elaborate.
I didn't know it while I was in it.
Of course.
Because when you're in it, you're in it.
Of course.
There was still the element of mystique, which I like. All the artists that I grew up listening to, watching, had mystique. You only knew so much. Maybe they'd be in a magazine. I remember running to magazine shops because, you know, the group would be in the magazine, just to get a picture.
That's as close as most of us could get.
Just to look at them. And then maybe they'd be on some television show, or if it was Don Kirshner's rock concert, or whatever it might be, the Midnight Special. So I grew up in that era. So here we are in the 90s now, and I'm thinking it's not as cool as that time, but it actually was. It actually was, you know, even just simple things like, I was looking at some old footage again the other day of the audience. It was from this concert, film, and documentary I did called Alive from Planet Earth, which I love. And we're playing, and I'm looking at the audience, and they're so free. I forgot. They were so free, and people were on each other's shoulders, and people were just grooving and dancing and celebrating, and there wasn't one fucking phone. You know, it was before that time where people could just be in the moment to experience something and not have to prove that they were there.
Most of us didn't even bother to bring cameras because it's like, who wants that in your pocket?
Yeah.
All you had was the ticket.
And yes, and MTV was the catalyst. I mean, there was the radio and there was MTV.
Do you remember when you realized that the walking down the street in New York was not going to be the same again?
During the second album, It Ain't Over Till It's Over became a big pop hit. And you know, as I said, I was still taking the train to the studio. I remember walking down Broome Street, which led to the Holland Tunnel, so there'd be a lot of traffic there at certain times.
Yeah.
And all the cars would be just sitting there in gridlock. And I started hearing my songs coming out of the cars. It was a very big moment for me to hear that. It blows your mind. It still blows my mind, actually. It's like, wow, people are listening to this. Or I'd hear it coming out of a window of a building, you know? And then I got on the train one day and people started to react.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the end of that. And then I started taking a taxi, you know, and then I got a VW van that I used to drive us to the studio in. But yeah, it was a transition because I grew up in the streets, you know, of New York and LA. And I love the street. And I'm still in the street. I have to maneuver a different way and I have to be aware of things, but it was very strange to have to sort of curb the natural way that I maneuver.
I feel like that's been very much the balance that you struck in the way that you live. Here we are in the middle of Paris. I mean, I know through the camera you look outside and think we could be anywhere else, but trust me, this is Paris. But then you also have this beautiful retreat in Brazil, and you've also chosen to live in the Bahamas and had a place there for a long time. What drew you into the contrast between the city kid who now has the space tucked away?
Right. Well, the Bahamas was
Family, it's
just
different, right? It's
so natural for me. Growing up in the Bahamas, you know, going twice a year, my mother always sent me down to the Bahamas. I'd spend summers there, I'd spend winters there. So after I got my record deal, when we used to get advances, I bought property in the Bahamas because I thought, well, if I never make another dollar, at least I got somewhere to go.
Yeah, smart.
I can build a shack, you know? And I bought a Harley Davidson motorcycle.
Not so smart.
Those are the two things. I still have it though. Those are the two things I bought. And you know, the Bahamas just means so much to me. It's a place where I can just be me. I'm just a local.
Yeah.
The Bahamian people are very special people.
Yeah.
And my roots are there. And I'm very comfortable there. And, you know, I lived in an Airstream trailer for 15 years. There was something I loved about getting off of tour and going to this place where it was this really limited space. You only have room for what you really, really need.
What's one of your favorite memories of writing a song when you were living in the Airstream? Like just in that simple environment where it was just you and your
Oh, it was beautiful. Just waking up in the middle of the night and having an idea, grabbing the guitar and, you know, just sitting in there writing. It was heaven. It still is. I mean, when I'm there making the records, most of the writing happens in my sleep.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm just an antenna. So I'm being given whatever's transmitted to me. And it tends to happen between like 3 and 5 a.m. You know, whatever vortex it is, it opens between those hours. And I'll just hear it. And I hear it like a record playing in my head. So it already exists. So then I have to wake up, grab the phone, grab a guitar. A lot of times I don't even grab the guitar. I'll just start humming the melody and then humming the chord structure. Sometimes I'll grab a guitar and then hope that I put enough information down so that I'll recognize it when I wake up. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
It's horrible, But that's how it works. And then I wake up, go to the studio, walk over to the studio, and start to make this thing that I've been given.
Well, that's super ego-free.
It is, but it makes it so much easier and so much more magical because it's not limited by a thought process, my thought process. And I've fought with tracks. Sometimes this beat, it's not what I wanted, or the vibe, or what is this style? And then I'll try to change it to make it hipper, maybe in my mind. And then I'll work on it where I'm like, nope. And I'll go back to what it was, even if it was odd to me. But I do have a new found acceptance of my music. Because when I'm done, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I go on to the next thing. And in these last few months of listening back to a lot of the records and the master tapes, because I'm teaching musicians what I need them to learn, I've been sitting there going, wow, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
Wow, that melody or that thing, or wow. Like, I never thought about it. It's a beautiful thing to listen back to something you did so many years ago and hear things you didn't hear or appreciate it.
Yeah.
You thought it was just whatever, but actually it's very special. So that's a beautiful gift to be given at this point in my life, to really appreciate and see what it is and feel what it is.
It's very much in keeping with this new album with Blue Electric Light. You said something when you returned with TK421 that really stuck with me, and I wanted to talk to you about it since, which was this feeling of renewal.
I don't think I ever had more fun making a record as Blue Electric Light. There was something about, there was a few things going on. COVID was happening, the world was shut down, and I was in the Bahamas. After a few weeks, this whole feeling of, I don't have to be anywhere, I don't have to do anything, I don't have to turn something in or show up. It was like, what's going on? I got into this place of really living in the moment. We all talk about living in the moment, not thinking about what we've done or what we're gonna do, but living in the moment, which is this place that I think so many of us want to be in.
Yeah.
And I got to exercise that because there was no past or future. It was like, here I am now, don't know what's going on. I just have to be here. And I'm in the middle of all of this beautiful nature. This music started coming. We'd be in the studio every day.
I want to go down. Can we go down?
Yeah.
Let's go down the studio. I want to see where you make
Yeah, man.
your music here. Oh, this is a spot. Wow. So this is not where you made the new album. You're in the Bahamas, but so what, this place was just waiting for you to come back?
This is my home studio here.
Right.
But yeah, the album was made in Eleuthera.
What's that feeling like when you walk into a room like this and you have no idea what's inside you, and what's ready to come out? That feeling that the environment is just waiting for you. Have you gotten any closer to kind of figuring out how to describe that feeling?
It's new every time. That's the beauty of it. It's new every time. It's magical every time. The element of surprise. You don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And that makes it interesting.
Do you think that taking the time to put the first sort of 25 years of your life on the page, do you think it was a contributor to this feeling of renewal? Did it clear out a lot of stuff and make room for new energy and new
I think
ideas?
it did. It also brought me back to that time, especially my teens. I'd never thought about writing a book, and it happened. I met David Ritz, and he challenged me. He's like, you should write a book, and I'll help you. And I thought, I don't know if I have anything interesting to to write about. The way I look at my life, it's my life.
Yeah.
It seems ordinary to me. But he said, you're going to find the stories and you're going to find the meaning. And we worked on it, wrote this book, Let Love Rule. And that exercise was the greatest form of therapy I could have ever had. So I was able to back up, see certain things for what they really were. And as I was writing about my dad, who, you know, I loved, but we had a very complicated relationship, I saw him as this character, and I took that personal thing off of it and how I felt about it, my feelings. And I was like, I kind of like this guy. You know, I understand him. You know, he's doing the best that he could do with what he had experienced, what he went through with his father and different things in the military and being brainwashed to be this sort of person that he really was not. Because I found out about that when he was dying, that he expressed that he'd been brainwashed to some extent, and that he'd always been trying to get this monkey off of his back, but he couldn't. And this is why I behaved this way or that way, which was enough for me because I never got explanations as a kid or even as an adult. He wasn't very expressive, and here he was expressing, and that was enough for me. Anyway, wrote the book, went through this therapy, explored my years as a teenager, which I had, you know, I'd never thought about that time really in depth like that since. I've said about this album that this is the record I didn't make as a teenager before Let Love Rule. And I think that because I was spending so much time reflecting on those years and those experiences, it took me back there. And without me even realizing it until I was already a few songs in, I had waken up, you know, I'd stirred up that time and the vibe that I was in and the sort of music that I was making.
Because there is a little naivety in a best possible way.
Absolutely.
In some of the keyboard sounds, stuff. You know, back then people were figuring out what those instruments did for the first time.
I pulled out old keyboards that I had during that time.
Yeah, and they'll fuck with you.
And
they will do what they want to do.
And drum machines and things that I was doing at that time. And this record is a bit of that. And 2 of the songs are even from high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did you even find those?
Old cassettes.
Holy shit.
That a friend had. I didn't even have it.
What? Mm-hmm. So you just reached out and was like, hey, have you got any old cassettes?
No, he said, I have these cassettes. And
which 2 songs?
He said, Heaven and Bundle of Joy.
What did you feel like when you heard those songs back for the first time? Must have been like a trip.
It was great. And they were great memories because those 2 songs I'd done with a guy that I knew since junior high school.
Yeah.
And we were like brothers, and it's in the book.
Yeah.
But it was wonderful to go back and transcribe the parts. I mean, they sound like they did. I spent a lot of time making sure every sound was perfect, sounded like it did then, all the parts, etc., from this murky cassette tape. I wanted to honor that time and also honor my friend.
I also feel when I listen to the album, like you are leaning into that space that a few artists indulged in authentically at that time, Prince being a very clear example of that. The drum sounds. That particular drum machine is just the sign of the times era drum machine.
Yeah, he owns the Linn drum.
Right, the Linn drum.
They were on so many records so many artists.
Yeah.
But he really took that, and it just became part of the fabric of his sound for so long. I was pulling out the things that I was using then.
You knew him, right, Prince?
Very well. Very well.
What's one of your favorite memories of spending time with Prince?
God, I've got so many. We spent so much time together.
Yeah.
You know, he used to call me in the late at night to meet him at a club to go play. You know, just set up and go play. You know, an audience would be there, obviously knowing that we were coming. Those were really great nights that were just so free and fun. Just going to his house to watch funny movies or comedians. He was really, really funny. He had an amazing sense of humor. Hanging out with him here in Paris when he had an apartment before I had my house. And I was dating Vanessa Paradis at the time. And we'd go over there. You know, Prince is very competitive. He's a very good ping pong player. He's very good at pool, basketball, everything. And we went over there one night, and Vanessa was really good at pool, and she kicked his ass.
Oh, shit.
And that was a hard one for him. Going to visit Michael Jackson, you know, he'd
Yeah.
pick me up. We'd go see Michael in the studio and just mess with him. And
Which is crazy because the stories were always that Prince and Michael were these kind of arch rivals in the arts.
I mean, I don't know about that. I'm sure there was some kind of,
Yeah.
you know, healthy competition or
You
whatever.
saw the
but-
opposite.
But it was more about having fun and sort of joking around with him. Like, let's go fuck with Michael, you know?
You must have been tripping out. There must have been a healthy level of imposter syndrome just being in that room for a second because of those two people being
I mean, those are two people that I grew up with and that I studied and that were my teachers. And
Yeah.
I was actually sitting between the two of them.
Crazy.
And I kept going like this, and I felt very normal, you know? They were both in full drag, you know, full makeup, full hair.
Just as we see
And I'm
them.
like this, you know, and Michael was fascinated with my dreadlocks. He's like, what do you do? And what do you do? What's your, you know, touching my hair.
Crazy.
But I was sort of the wild,
yeah.
organic one, you know, and they were very done. But both of them were really beautiful people. And, you know, Prince was very giving and very always speaking to me about certain things that he thought I should know and teaching me about the business. And he also cared about people's spirits. I remember sitting in his car for like 2 hours once. He wanted to show me this purple car he'd gotten. It was this Prowler, Chrysler Prowler or whatever. I think that's what it was called. And he took me down to see it. He had just gotten it. And next thing I know, we're sitting in the car for 2 hours having Bible study. Like he's giving me a lesson, and we had a lot of respect for each other as musicians and as human beings.
You got as close as anyone will get to him on stage to witness that ability. What did you learn, or what was it like to be that close to him from a musical chemistry point of view? I mean, the friendship is beautiful, but you're like this far away.
It was somewhat intimidating.
Yeah.
He's just that good.
Yeah.
He's just that good. You know, being in the studio with him, we used to play with our bands together, or just he and I, being that he and I both played
Everything.
We'd just go in the studio, I'd grab something, he'd grab something, then I'd go there, and then I'd get on the drums, and then we'd switch guitars, and, you know, we'd make tracks.
Did you ever record any of it?
Yeah, there's recordings, and there's also sort of things that he would call, you know, sort of mementos. Like, there's Prince tracks where I'm singing background and you don't know,
Wow.
and I can't tell you.
Because he always wanted it to remain just a part of the experience.
I'll give you that, but
Amazing.
But and if I played it for you and you'd say, "Oh wow, that's you,"
Yeah.
and it's only me. It's not me mixed with him. It's only me.
You know, I think about you as a collaborator on records, and for someone who can play everything yourself, you have had such a rich life of collaborating with people. You know, is there another one that really jumps out that you really felt was like a great turning point for you, a great learning for you?
Mick Jagger.
Yeah, I love that song.
Mick Jagger. God gave me everything.
Yeah.
He came to my place in Miami, and
That's a great team up, that.
I'd written the track. I had a little bit of melody, but I didn't want to finish it because I wanted him to come up with the verses, especially. So I played him the track. I sang him the basic melody of the hook, and he said, "Okay, I'll be right back." He asked for a pad and a pen, and he went into this little corner of my house for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Comes back with the words. He's got it. So I said, okay, why don't you go in there and do a vocal? In his mind, he was doing a dummy vocal. It was just a guide vocal. So he goes in there, and I'm sitting behind the console. He starts singing it. And Craig was sitting next to me, and I looked over at Craig and I said, holy shit, it sounds like Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's, all of a sudden it was a record. And that was blowing my mind, to hear his voice coming through the microphone into the studio on this song that we're writing. And so he comes out, he kills it. One take, comes out, and he says, yeah, it's cool, but I'll get the real vocal later. And I'm thinking to myself, are you out of your mind? That vocal was incredible. Feel, pitch, everything, rhythm. Day after day after day after day, he kept going in to sing it again and again and again.
Do you know what he was looking for?
Maybe it happened too fast. Sometimes you think, well, if it just happened like that, I need to work on it or make it better. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe he didn't like it that much. And he and I got into it a bit. And that's my man. I respect him so much and love him so much. He's been a great friend throughout all these years. But I said, this vocal is incredible. And finally, after doing it like 10 times, he finally gave in. And I thought, thank God. And that's the vocal you hear on the record.
Yeah.
One take, done.
Yeah. I love that song. The chemistry between the two of you is amazing. I think about the idea of manifestation a lot, especially when I talk to artists who grow up listening to these amazing musicians. They become a part of your life, a part of who you want to be through your own identity, and then you end up sitting in a car for 2 hours with Prince or recording
when I produced Michael Jackson. It was like, yes, all of these people were examples to you. All these people turned you on. All these people educated you.
Damn, Lenny, I forgot you actually produced Michael Jackson. I've got to ask before we get into
Unfortunately, it ended up on a whack album. But it was...
you still had the experience.
Yeah, and it was... Because there was a bunch of nonsense on that record. But we recorded it for the Invincible album. And at the time when we were done, they thought it was like a bit too rock for that record. For whatever reason, I don't know. Because Michael always had like a cool rock track, whether it was Dirty Diana or Beat It or whatever.
I mean, of course, he had Eddie Van Halen on fucking Beat It.
Michael said, okay, I'm gonna hold it for the next record. And he would call me all the time. Remember he was in the Middle East, like living for a while. And he'd call me and just to talk, and then we would talk about the song. He's like, I love that song. I can't wait to put it out. I'm gonna put it on the next record. And then he passed. And then they made that Michael album. And it got put on that record. But I'm really proud of the track. The track is beautiful. He sang his ass off.
Because he could produce himself. I mean, he was that human being, right, who knew his way through every element of the creative process. So to sort of be of any influence in that environment with him must have been...
He wanted me to write a song for him, produce it.
Yeah.
He said, you come up with it. I had a matter of days to do it. I had nothing. And it came. I recorded it, finished the track, played the instruments, got it together. He came in. I wrote the words down for him, and I had a dummy vocal on there that I kept playing to him. And he went in the vocal booth and he said, you stop me when I don't do it right. He just learned the song, so anybody would be not remembering everything at first. And I thought, how am I gonna push this button and tell Michael Jackson to stop singing? But we got into it. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I laughed so much with him. He's super funny, and a perfectionist, and a gift of an experience.
What a life. I mean, there is something to be said about, allowing the universe to do its work. If you show passion for the arts and what somebody does, then inevitably, if you're lucky, you'll find your way into their sphere. And, you touch on that on the new album. In fact, the album starts like that. I mean,
just another fine day, right?
In this universe
In this
of love,
universe, right? This idea of letting go, of giving over to that. How do you practice that? Because it's a feeling, but in order for it to be truly effective, it is a discipline. It requires you, I believe, to commit to that, which is a process.
Letting go.
Yeah.
And
The most important words.
And letting God, as they say in that phrase, acceptance, knowing what's important, knowing what you can change and what you can't, staying in gratitude regardless of the situation, because in the scheme of the universe, how small are we? No matter what's going on, if you back up far enough, it's just another fine day in this universe. The universe is going to continue.
Yeah.
We got to get our shit together.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to coexist. We have to learn how to work together. We have to learn how to settle disputes without violence. We have to learn how to deal with each other.
You've never shied away from those subjects in your music. It's great that people want to go and dance at your shows and sing along and pump their fist and close their eyes and get lost in these songs that really are predominantly focused on the idea of spreading love.
Absolutely.
That is your mantra. And you've honored it all the way through from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But even on your first album, Mr. Cab Driver, you have no problem calling out what you see.
No.
In your music.
That's what the music's for. Somehow it's been this way. I've been consistent. As far as I'm concerned, my music is to amplify love. That's it. And that's my commitment. And it's natural. It's not something that I'm thinking about. I'm saying, this is what I do, and so I'm going to stick to it. No, I can't help it. It's what I do.
You clearly have gotten to a point in your life now where you are hyper-focused on your physical and mental, spiritual well-being.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
We were joking upstairs about the pull-up king.
Yeah, well,
In my mind, you are just walking past a gym and there's just a bit of equipment.
I had to go meet my trainer.
Right.
I had an hour. So the way I work, when we have time, when we can match up, I got to do whatever I got to do. Oh, I can take you now. Oh, where are you? Okay, boom. I go. I don't care what I'm wearing.
Right.
I've worked out in everything.
Yeah.
If I'm doing cardio, no, I'm going to put on something that I can sweat in.
Sure.
If I'm lifting weights,
leather pants and big boots.
I don't sweat so much. I show up in what I show up in, and it's funny because I also train with professional athletes, NFL players, Major League Baseball players, wrestlers, boxers. They'll see me come in some jeans and boots and like one of those shirts that my daughter talks about.
That was brilliant.
And they laugh. We're gonna work out with him, wearing that, and then I destroy.
You've always taken care of your physical well-being, but your energy is amazing. You will literally be turning 60. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's coinciding. I don't know if that was by design. The release of the album.
No, it just happened. No, just worked out.
You're gonna celebrate?
Absolutely.
You're gonna have a party?
Every 10 years I do. And it's gonna be lovely. And for me, it's more about celebrating the people that make my life. That's what I'm celebrating. And the fact that we're still here and so blessed and healthy, have options, have food on the table and shelter and, friends, and it's a lot. So I'm gonna celebrate life, gratitude, and thank God for where I am.